Hello there, a very good evening and welcome to another edition of The Role of Law. Today our topic of discussion is an interesting one, to say the very least. It's sports laws here in Sri Lanka that protect the integrity of sports and protect sports from corruption. Of course, here in Sri Lanka, sports is a big thing. A lot of people in Sri Lanka, citizens of Sri Lanka, are huge sports buffs, especially sports like cricket, football, so on and so forth. We love our sports, and as such, we need to protect them. And the legal framework that is intertwined with the protection of sports is, of course, an important one. And it's important that we understand how this system works, of course, for prospective players or for even cricket fans and other sports fans to know what is really going on in the sporting scene here in Sri Lanka. And to discuss these matters and more, we have with us today Attorney at Law Nishan Premithirathne. A very good evening, sir, and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. Thank you very much for
well, of course, we must start this discussion, of course, with the biggest sporting event that is currently taking place in Sri Lanka, even in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Lankan Premier League, also known as the LPL. But before we get into that discussion, just as a precursor to that, as far as sports law here in Sri Lanka goes, one of the most important pieces of legislation is the Prevention of Offences in Sports Act that was introduced as early as as late, if I'm correct, as 2019. And what are the provisions in this act and how really does it protect sports, including, of course, cricket and other sports, from corruption?
Yes, Charlotte. So that's a very pertinent place to start our discussion. Now, the Prevention of Offences in Sport, which was brought in, the Act was brought in 2019. And the beauty of having our local enforceable piece of legislature means that our enforcement system has teeth. Now, prior to this Act being brought into force, it is the anti-corruption units of the respective sporting bodies who took on anti-corruption and had their own investigations and proceeded to either ban the respective player or to take action against the participant who falls within the purview of the code. Now, the issue with having this without having your own local law in place to prevent an offense of this nature, anybody who is not part of sport, like you and I possibly, we could also be involved in this dirty or this plague of corruption which takes away the uncertainty which we all love about sport. So if you and I can also be a part of influencing the outcome of an event, of a sporting event, or outcome of even a small incident like being able to decide on which player who is going to play a cricket game, which bowler is going to bowl a particular ball, whether it is going to be a no ball, if it is in respect of a football, whether it's going to be a goal which is going to be given to the other side. So now it is ultimately people who are outside the sport who orchestrate this malpractice. So to get all of them under the umbrella and to enforce law and order against those perpetrators, the fact that we have our own piece of legislature which ensures that a perpetrator, and it says the Act uses the word any person. So any person means not merely a person connected to sport. So it can be you and I also. So if you and I try in any way to incite a player or any person connected with sport, which could include rugby, hockey, football, or any other sport which is set out in the Sporting Act, we could be found guilty for doing so in terms of the Prevention of Offences of Sport, which was brought in 2019. Now, prior to 2019, you and I can just go scot-free. It is only the player who was induced who could be interrogated by the respective body who can be punished, but not you and I.
So even if the player has been induced by, say, a member of the general public, the player will be penalized, but the person who influenced him goes scot-free.
That's the thing. So that is like in the drug industry, where you will just catch the small fish, but actually the big whales are still swimming in the sea. So you don't want that to happen, because this is a mafia. This is I used the word a plague, because it is a connected network globally. You would see Hansi Cronje, he came out in the year 2000, and he testified that he was involved in forecasting certain events in respect of a cricket match, the 5th ODI, which was played in India. And even a member who is part of the LPL, Mr. Herschel Gibbs, he also confessed before the King's Commission in South Africa that he was lured by Hansi Cronje to get out below 20 runs, but he didn't follow instructions, though he was required to. So it is, and then unfortunately Hansi Cronje died in a plane attack, a plane crash, so there is controversy surrounding that. So this is, we don't know who and what powerful elements are moving in corruption.
So you spoke about the fact that members of the general public really cannot be brought to account or brought to book prior to 2019. However, something that stirred a lot of controversy, especially during the run-up to the previous election, was a claim made by the former sports minister. He said that a key match that happened way before 2019 was rigged, and Sri Lanka's favorite sportsmen, two of Sri Lanka's favorite sportsmen, Kumba Sangakkara and Mahela Jayawardena, were interrogated for long hours. Fans were not happy about it.
Yeah, so Shalan, now on ex facie, on the face of that allegation, that is an allegation which emanates after 8 years of a cricketing match. So whether the Sri Lankan authority could have gone into that as an offence in terms of the 2019 prevention of offences in relation to sport is a different matter. It is my position that they could not have, because that is an perpetrated allegation which came to being way before the act. So a criminal offence cannot be construed to be in effect in a retrospective manner. So the whole saga of bringing these players and questioning them and making it a media frenzy was, number one, not in my, I wouldn't concur with that. But notwithstanding, the ICC have their own protocol in going into matters of that nature. And the ICC Anti-Corruption Unit ensures that any complaint which is lodged to them by a player or a participant in respect of any corruption or any unusual allurement intended to change the course or to influence something, they will maintain that inquiry at utmost confidence. It doesn't go out. We don't know, the ICC might be yet at this time inquiring in respect of certain matters which are ongoing in respect of cricket. So they do not want it to go out unless and until they are in a position to frame charges against the respective perpetrator. And when they do so, then they will announce that.
Right. So just to get an understanding of how strong these laws are, moving away a little bit from the Sri Lankan Act that is in place to prosecute for these. Of course, you said that every person falls under the ambit of this, so every person can be questioned. Moving on to an international sports body, since Sri Lankans love their cricket, let's speak about the ICC. The ICC, according to the obligations that the ICC has placed on the players, who are of course responsible to the ICC and have to report to the ICC, what kind of obligations do they have to the ICC in trying to do away with the corruption-related issues, to stay in the clear?
Yes. So every player and every participant for that matter, so it can be even a selector, a curator, an official, an administrator, anyone who is part of the system is obligated. There is a mandatory obligation to come and report the incident to the ICC, and the failure to do so, is automatically deemed to be an offence, through which a player can be found guilty without even an inquiry, because the mere fact of failure to disclose, or even it could be an instance where the ICC anti-corruption unit, which is headed by right now by Alex Marshall, who is a former Scotland Yard officer. He's fully geared. I think the ICC anti-corruption unit is very expeditious. They have the state-of-the-art technology to go into any matter. So if hypothetically you are a player and the anti-corruption unit have you in the radar, they might come and take you even from at this instance. You are here, they might be outside there, and after you are done, they will immediately take you and question you, and they can grill you for 6 to 8 to 20 hours if they want to. And you are required to give you a mobile phone, whatever they ask, you are supposed to give. If you do not give that, that tantamounts to also an offense. If you do not cooperate in any way, they can presume that against you and automatically construe that to being an offense of match fixing. Right? So the code imposes a heavy burden on all of these parties who fall under the code. So that is the beauty about it. And now you as a player are then, or any other person, you are required to disclose everything. So it might be about your assets, it might be the people you have been in contact with, all your WhatsApp messages, all of that. And if you have deleted any of those messages for any matter, the ICC is able to even recover those messages in terms of the technology they use, or they are even able to draw adverse inferences against you by being able to discover that you have gone on in a voyage deleting messages.
Right. So the usual standard of innocent until proven guilty and proving an offense beyond a reasonable doubt don't really apply here.
I would say that the ICC will never embark in framing charges against a participant or a concerned party unless they have overwhelming evidence. So merely a third party going and saying, this gentleman, there was a, he said that he was going to bowl this person in this over because somebody else told me to do so. If a player came out and if a third party goes and complains that to the ICC, they might they won't just merely hold that 10 on that level charges against the ICC against the player. And after the charges are levelled, Shalan, there is and the ICC anti-corruption unit tribunal before which you go and appear, and you have the right to defend. It's not automatically that you are found guilty.
Right.
You go there and you defend yourself. It'll be like a normal adversarial setup of trying to find a person guilty. So you will lay your evidence, they will, and there is an independent tribunal which will make a decision. In the event the ICC anti-corruption tribunal makes a decision against you, you still have a right to appeal to the sports arbitration court in Switzerland.
Right. So it's not a simple process of
no,
just finding
it is
someone.
not. It is not. But it is, as a player, you are well advised, or any other party, to hold hands with the ICC, to report each and everything and anything which you are unsure whether you even ought to report. So there is a ACU officer here in Sri Lanka. You can immediately report to him, or you can even get in touch with the high-ranking officials of the ICC anti-corruption unit immediately, and they are immediately geared to record you even in this modality where they will get you to come on some online platform and you can record your evidence. They will take your statement.
Of course, moving on to the biggest sporting event in Sri Lanka, like we promised our viewers, we will discuss the Lankan Premier League. We need to address the elephant in the room. There have been certain damning reports published by some leading media organizations in Sri Lanka regarding corruption inside the Lankan Premier League. And of course, even the Minister of Sports has come out and expressed his opinion, saying that corruption will not be tolerated under any circumstances. So regarding corruption, of course, it's important that we protect important franchises for Sri Lanka, like the Lankan Premier League, where we have found diamonds in the rough, people who would not have otherwise got an opportunity to shine on the international stage. So with relation to the corruption allegations that are leveled at the LPL franchise, what really is happening on there?
So it's heartening that the sports minister has come out, and I think he tweeted saying that he's not going to tolerate this. And if there is any controversy or any allegations, I'm sure that, especially in the light of our local law being enforced, that the perpetrators would be caught and they would be inquired into and, if found guilty, punished. And we have in terms of our law, even if the perpetrator is a non-Sri Lankan who is still within the Sri Lankan setup at this present moment, local law foreign, the anti-corruption, the Offences Against Sport Act entail that even he can be, there is no differentiation made between Sri Lankan or non-Sri Lankan. It is like it's an offence. So even a non-Sri Lankan can be found guilty for murder in Sri Lanka. Similarly, in the same context, if a third party who is not a Sri Lankan is the architect or the orchestrator of any of these alleged wrongdoings of trying to, it might not be merely fixing a cricket match. It might be wanting to get a certain player to bowl a certain over. It might be the requirement of getting out in respect of a certain ball. 18.2 second over, you are compelled to get out. So that is where the betting takes place, and everyone seems to go and bet on that one simple factual incident, and on that these bookies and these match fixers and their dues. So it is very easy to earn out of these illegal wrongdoings. So, but now the Sri Lankan LPL is also scrutinized by the ICC Anti-Corruption Unit. So anything and everything, if there is any possible simple attempt, I believe the players are very active, and the people who are part of administration are very active, that they will immediately take it to the respective anti-corruption unit and also to the special unit set up under the sports ministry to inquire into any offences and punish the respective perpetrators. But I don't believe it's in the interest of Sri Lankan cricket that we want to topple the apple cart at this juncture when in the middle of the LPL. I'm hearing today, I heard that we have over 100 million viewers watching the LPL during throughout the world. Right. Watching the LPL. So we are going to build an audience, and over the next 3, 4, 5 years, I believe the LPL will also boom. It might not be big as the IPL, but we can make it a really big hit in the years to come. So scrutinizing the people who are involved, because unfortunately we don't know the people who want to buy the franchise, then we might have to do certain background checks on them. Those sort of levels of degree of scrutiny, once this becomes a platform where everybody else wants to pitch in and eat a part of the pie, there will be more people who would want to join in, and then we would have the discretion of cherry picking and disregarding certain personnel who want to be a part of the setup.
Well, you mentioned that under the ICC Anti-Corruption Code, the players are duty-bound to report any approaches. Even an approach, the player is duty-bound to report it to the ICC or their official present here. Not doing so is an offence. Does the Sri Lankan Sports Act, the Prevention of Corruption in Sports Act, also entail such an obligation?
Yes, it does. It does. It very clearly does. So it extends to any person. So seemingly, if it does not, if a person who is aware of such the matters which construe to be offences in terms of the act and has not disclosed that to the respective authorities, that person can also be found guilty. He also commits an offence. Right? So he also can be punished by a magistrate for a period, I think it's about 3 years. So everybody is duty bound to disclose. So the beauty about, as I told you earlier, Shalan, the beauty about all sports is uncertainty. Why do people want to watch a live cricket match rather than watch it in a recorded format? They want, they want that whole
living on the edge.
Yes, that factor. So if that factor is taken away, even the United Nations to Interpol to transparency, the corruption of sport has been addressed at those levels. So they want countries to seriously look at this element. So it can happen even in not in a LPL setup, but even in a Division 3 club game or in a Division 3 rugby match, where a certain player can be told to stay out because the other side wants to win the game so that they can be number one in the table. So that also is corruption. Because you will be lured to do that for some benefit. So a player in terms of the ICC anti-corruption code is even required, even if I give a certain player a mobile phone, the new Apple i12 phone, he is required to disclose that. He cannot, because if by chance it comes to a situation where it comes out, then it will be serious adverse inferences against the player. So even if somebody says, come to my hotel and come and stay here for 10 days or as long as you want, that is a matter you have to disclose.
Right.
Because otherwise, that can be the ICC being the anti-corruption unit, being the watchdog and wanting to regulate corruption, entails that those sort of initial approaches, those might be the initial steps to the bigger stepping stones in order to attract a player to, or any other participant, to get them to do certain things to what ought not to be done.
Well, of course, although we are told and thought that gambling is a bad habit, betting on these things are quite bad habits, they're not illegal. There are legal ways that people do this, and there are people who make a living out of this, of course, legally. How does corruption really pitch in there and help third parties gain an additional advantage in these bettings?
Now, for example, I don't know whether you can remember Sri Lanka. This is not in any way drawing any aspersions against this cricket match, but in 2001, if my memory serves me correct, is it 2003, when Sri Lanka was in South Africa, we lost to Kenya.
Right.
And Kenya was the country who we beat by scoring over 400 runs in Colombo in the 96 World Cup. And if there were betting sites, lawful betting sites on the internet, which they would have had the odds of Kenya defeating Sri Lanka as 1 to 100. Sri Lanka defeating Kenya will be a very overwhelming possibility compared to the minnow defeating the more established cricketing nation.
Right.
So if I go and make a bet on Kenya to win the match, my reward is more, because I'm on paper betting on a greater risk. Now, if I can fix that outcome hypothetically, if I can, this is all hypothetical, Shalan, right? If I can orchestrate that outcome of that cricket match, and I can then lure bets into that uncertain, unforeseen scenario happening, I will get a lot more return. So likewise, you can bet on a certain over, you can bet on a certain ball, you can bet on a certain player playing, you can bet on a certain player who is not performing continuously over a period of time, not being dropped. So those sort of things are there. So those are not seemingly illegal, because you are, if somebody asks me the combination which is going to be played for the Boxing Day Test match in Australia,
you can guess.
Yeah, I can guess. That the whole objective is that for you to guess. So I should be able to. India will want to play 3 paces in Sydney, or whether they want to play spinners, is something which I will want. I would have a little bit of cricketing knowledge to be able to guess that. But if I definitely know that combination,
if you fixed it,
yes, that is also corruption. So bowling a 1 foot no ball in a match can also be that, right? A spinner bowling a 1 foot no ball, it's very unthinkable. It will be a game of inches, if at all. So, but there might be situations where there are more, those sort of overwhelming measures taken by the person who is attempting to fix that specific incident.
Well, we've drifted quite deep into the sport of cricket, but of course, one thing that must be established is the fact that corruption is not only endemic to cricket, it's there in every other sport, it's present in every other sport. It's just that here in Sri Lanka, we just love our cricket a little bit more. Moving on, another huge scandal that came to light, of course, through a news report published by the Al Jazeera network was not involving any of the players, but the staff at a certain cricket stadium, also here in Sri Lanka. They were caught on camera making agreements with third parties to fix the pitch, to prepare the pitch in such a way that it will help the team score a higher score, usually a low-scoring pitch. Now, on these matters, does the Sri Lankan Act really help prosecute these matters as well?
When that Al Jazeera report came, I think that was about 2-3 years ago, Shalan,
Yes.
what I remember. There was no law in this country at that time for prevention. So this act came in 2019, somewhere around October. So strictly speaking, no. But if it happens now, then also the question, as a lawyer, if I am asked to think about this with the cricketing knowledge I have, I would think it's normal for the whole nation country to be able to decide on the requirement of their wicket. So if the curator liaises with the administration and asks them whether you all are going to have a pace contingent or a spinning combination for the first test, and he will say, yes, I don't want any grass on the wicket. So if that is the intimation given, the curator will oblige. So I don't know how that can be considered to be a game of luring somebody to do something for a benefit when that is the practice seen globally. But if it was some third party other than this seemingly norm of doing the pitch, trying to influence, and if the curator then succumb to that, then yes, possibly that respective person would be committing an offence.
So just to clear the record, any offence that has been committed with regard to corruption in sports, not only cricket, any sports, before the year 2019, there is no enforcement mechanism here in Sri Lanka to bring them to book.
Unfortunately not. Now in 2015, there was I think this was all public, the Sri Lankan cricketer, he complained to the ICC in respect of a certain attempt, and at that time the FCID took it upon themselves to go and inquire into this. So they summoned the player, they summoned the captain, they summoned so many other people, and it was a media frenzy, and these cricketers were traumatized. Now my concern is, now if in that sort of a situation, even if they had found something, there was nothing they could have done, because there was no offence in this country.
So why inquire into it?
That is the thing. So unfortunately or fortunately, cricketers and cricket is so loved, it is very easy to make it a media frenzy when something is related to that. So everybody has to be mindful. We don't want our cricketers to be tarnished, or any other sportsman for that matter, rugby players or whoever, be tarnished in the world, before the world, in the context of possible allegations. So that should not happen. But strictly speaking, no. So even that inquiry it happened, and after that nothing happened, it went under the carpet. So, but right now I think the offences in respect of Sports Act is a great piece of legislature. It has teeth, it is yet to be tested, and it might be tested if what you say about the LPL and if certain allegations...
What has been reported.
Reported, sorry, as per your reports, Shalan, if they are correct, and if the authorities take it upon themselves to go behind these perpetrators on complaints made, because I have read it somewhere that there have been already complaints made in respect of certain allegations against a certain player. So if that happens and those players are questioned, and they can be enforced through the local enforcement mechanism, and the ICC's inquiry can happen independently. We are not bound to comply with any of the anti-corruption laws in terms of the local offence which is seemingly committed. Now, for that matter, India being the cricketing hub of the world does not have anti-corruption law there. So Sri Lanka it's heartening.
So we're progressive.
We have progressed. India, there is no anti-corruption law yet. So they wanted to have a bill. There is a bill, but it's not yet brought in and implemented.
Looking into the future, now it's all good that we have the anti-corruption laws that we do have in Sri Lanka, but moving forward, what more can be done to improve the situation here in our fight against corruption?
I think the most important thing is creating awareness, like creating awareness in respect of other dangerous or harmful aspects which are seen in society. Some players or some participants might not actually see the gravity of this. So it might be that I know somebody who is part of the cricketing setup, and say hypothetically, Shalan, you ask me what do you think of X's credibility? And you might be somebody else's proxy. And you ask me that question. And I might just, he's a great man, no, nothing will happen. And I might just tell you that.
Right.
And I might not think too much about it. But you might then try another way to do that. But if I take that complaint, that issue, and make a complaint out of it, then possibly little by little, it can be, no, we should take this matter seriously. It is a play. We don't want the sports we love, as I've been reiterating, to have ifs about it. There should not be ifs. Why did this happen? Yes, it happened because we watched a wonderful 2019 World Cup final. It was unbelievable. Nobody points a finger saying the game was fixed. There was an allegation against, not an allegation, but a human error on field. There was an allegation of that nature against the umpire, a Sri Lankan umpire, which unfortunately that is on interpreting the law, and that is nothing to do with, those things have to be accepted. We are all human. But if there was an allegation of corruption against the World Cup final, for example, what would it make all of us? We'll all feel we were victimized, we were cheated. Right? So we have to create awareness. Implications of the new act should be continuously agitated through the respective sporting bodies at all levels. So it can be a mere petty Division 3 rugby match, a Division 3 cricket match, where nothing turns on it. But there might be an incident where the coach of the team might tell that captain, tomorrow you get unwell, don't come for the match, don't report, so then he might not bat tomorrow.
Right.
In a 3-day game, and that might be the victory for the other side. So those sort of things from that level we should be able to address and punish these perpetrators, to keep the things we love clean.
And with that, of course, our time is up. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us.
Thank you very much, Charlotte.
Despite your busy schedule. And thank you very much, of course, to all our viewers out there for tuning in to The Rule of Law. We will see you again next week, same time, same place. Until then, take care and God bless.